we now do have a preview of some of the things that after this term ends in a few days, what the Supreme Court is going to be starting to take up next year. You wrote about this in the New Republic. The fact that they have decided that they're going to take up a case that could prevent Congress from passing a wealth tax. What is this case? Who are the plaintiffs? How is this? I mean, how is this even possible? They're preempting a potential wealth tax?
Well, that's if you believe the plaintiffs, that's what they think the court can do in this case. You know, this is a case that in the meat and potatoes is actually about the Trump tax cuts that were passed a few years ago. There was a provision in there that was being challenged. It involved a one-time repatriation tax. It's mind-numbing for anyone who's not a tax lawyer. But that's the basic gist of it, is whether or not Congress can levy that tax under the Constitution, under the 16th Amendment, or whether they have to do it under a different mechanism that's more complicated. Now, that dispute in of itself is interesting, but not really significant. What sets this one apart is that the plaintiffs and their lawyers explicitly pushed this case as a way to say, hey, the reasoning that you could use to strike this down could also be used against federal wealth taxes in the future. And we know that when Democrats, especially Elizabeth Warren, especially Ron Wyden, have pushed for these in recent years, there's been a lot of pushback from the conservative legal movement saying that they aren't constitutional. And so this is a way to sort of preempt that and get it before the justices before Democrats even have a chance to pass it. That's not my supposition. That's what the plaintiffs and their lawyers have actually said.
I mean, they are scared. It's funny to see in a way, but it's like, I mean, could not be more clearly within the jurisdiction as laid out by the Constitution of what Congress is supposed to be engaged in. The power of the purse, right? Like, this is exactly what Congress's role is in terms of the congressional or the constitutional delineation of their duties, is it not?
Well, the plaintiffs argue, to their fairness, that the 16th Amendment only allows income taxes to be levied without apportioning it among the states. You have to basically adjust it by population for each state. But if you do the income tax, you can just levy an income tax on everyone. Now, the proponents of the wealth tax say, look, this is basically an income tax because, you know, with wealth, you can borrow against it, you can take out lines of credit based on it, you can derive income from it, even if it's not direct. They say, no, hold on. We want this to be read narrowly. We want income tax to be read narrowly so that you can't do this, because otherwise it would violate the Constitution. And so how the justices come down on that could be decisive in whether or not Congress can do this without jumping through a lot of very difficult hoops in the future.
I mean, honestly, like, there needs to be some sort of leftist or liberal mechanism that can do this kind of thing. Like say, God forbid, there's a Republican Congress and a president agrees that, hey, let's start to privatize Social Security and Medicare. I would love for a leftist group to bring a case based on similar grounds, just because, like, hey, I don't agree with this, and the Supreme Court should strike it down, because that's essentially what they're doing. They're circumventing democratic process that hasn't even happened yet, and trying to put a chilling effect on it via unelected priests, the Supreme Court.
I mean, you know, I think that the Supreme Court, you know, this case won't be heard until the fall. It won't be decided until probably next summer. The Supreme Court has gone through a lot in the last couple of years. It's gone through a severe decline, a very measurable decline in its public esteem. And I think that may weigh on the justices. Now, whether that will weigh enough on them to say, hey, you know, this isn't as big of a case as it needs to be, that'll be down the road. But I think the more that people perceive the Supreme Court to be acting in ways that are inimical to democracy, that are partisan, that are political, the more likely it is that there will be a backlash. And I think the justices, if they want to retain the prestige and power that the institution enjoys, they have to be conscious of that, because if not, Congress will take action.
It really is incredible how, like, this Elizabeth Warren has a special place in, like, triggering certain legal conservative minds, whether it's the CFPB. They've been trying to attack that for years at this point, and they're successful in ways of bleeding it dry. Whether it be the wealth tax, just the threat of what she's been proposing. It's amazing to me. Yeah, there's a reason. I mean, you hear about how she's so despised on Wall Street for that kind of stuff.
If memory serves, and this is going a bit off of memory, I think there is even another CFPB case coming up next term. So, in a way, to make a bad pun, it really is the return of the Warren Court.
Well said. Well said. I mean, we can only go down from there, Matt. So I'll let you go because that was a perfect way to end it. Matt Ford of the New Republic. You can read his coverage, all his work about a variety of things, about covering the Supreme Court as well. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a joy.
Appreciate it.